The iPhone 16 Pro Max has officially been unveiled, and the big question is, at least on my mind, is how is it going to compete with the Samsung S25 Ultra? Samsung and Apple have been head-to-head with performance and features over the past couple of years, but who's going to come out ahead in this lap of the smartphone race? I know what you're thinking. Okay, so the S25 Ultra hasn't been released yet, and although this is true, we have pretty comprehensive leaks that are likely to be very accurate. Ice Universe, a Twitter user who is generally very much on the money with these kinds of predictions, has dropped a few comprehensive leaks about the new S25 Ultra spec. I've compiled them into what we know now to help you with a head-to-head in this video so that you know what to expect when it lands next to the iPhone 16 Pro Max next year. That said, please take all of this with a grain of salt and be aware that things are most likely, they might change over the next couple of months, who knows. So let's get into the battle of the giants. First up, let's take a look at the display. Okay, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is launching with a larger 6.9-inch display. Now, that's what a lot of people are reporting, but if you look closely at Apple's fine print on their website, however, they're actually rounding it up. It's technically 6.85 inch. Look, most people aren't going to even notice that, but this is huge for an iPhone, right? The screen size is absolutely massive, and it's getting close to iPad mini territory, which is 7.9 inches big. Literally an inch off of what the iPhone's, size is currently. So I guess it could be a phablet. We're back at the phablet age, but if you've been using a Pro device for a long time, like the Samsung S24 Ultra, you know what that kind of size feels like. The upcoming Samsung S25 Ultra is going to be 6.86 inches, according to the leaks, which makes it fractionally bigger than the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Now, I know, again, I'm nitpicking here, that is incrementally bigger. Like, people are not going to notice that when you put those two phones next to each other on a table. But I have a problem with how Apple are communicating here. I wouldn't have thought that the Samsung S25 Ultra was going to be bigger because of what Apple's marketing has done of rounding it up. It makes it sound like it's going to have the largest screen size in the world, which technically it's not. They don't say that. They say the largest iPhone screen size, but it's a little bit scaly in my opinion. It's like omitting information. I don't know. It feels a bit sketch the way it's been presented. Obviously, we haven't seen Samsung's S25 Ultra marketing because that hasn't begun yet. So I don't know how they're going to frame this conversation, but in reality, the S25 Ultra beats the iPhone 16 in terms of display size. And you know what? It's likely that the marketing might go the same way of rounding up. The one that everybody's waiting for, the cameras. The iPhone 16 Pro Max's camera array is really impressive. We know this, but there are a couple of limitations and a couple of unique things that set it apart. It only has a 48 megapixel sensor, but with a pretty cool 5x optical zoom. That's really nice. It still doesn't film in 8K like a lot of the Ultra devices already do, but it will support 4K at 24 FPS all the way up to 120 FPS. A really cool thing as well for Apple users is now that you can shoot up to 240 FPS and 1080p. That's nice. And a feature that Apple have kept in their Pro Max devices, which I really wish that Samsung would include, is a 3D LiDAR scanner for depth scanning. This is a great tool. It's a great inclusion on a phone. It's great for 3D work. So if you want to scan something in an environment like a headset or a phone or something and put it into 3D software, that's what that's for. Or it's also really good for autofocusing. You can get LiDAR scanners for your DJI, but it's great for depth sensing and autofocusing. And I actually think it's the future when it comes to depth recognition in cameras that are don't have big lenses. It has to be done on a software level, and the more information you've got, the better. And Samsung, for some reason, every year you don't include one. Please, 1 year, please. If you're listening to the Samsung, make it happen. The S25 Ultra is expected to have a 50 megapixel telephoto camera, optical image stabilization, which is cool. The sensor size on the primary camera is much bigger comparatively, though, at 200 megapixels. So that's by design. It looks like Samsung will be trusting their software more. And we've seen Samsung do this already. They've done it with the S25 Ultra by downgrading the 100x zoom from this year, from the S23 Ultra to the S24 Ultra. And not many people complain about that. It's hard to say which one is going to be better, so I'm going to give this category a tie for now. Like the iPhone 16 Pro Max looks like it's going to have great cameras. I haven't obviously used it, and I expect the same from Samsung's S25 Ultra. Only time is going to tell, and we're going to have to do like a proper test of it, but they are confidently going in different directions, which is cool. I'm just so sick and tired of like marketing speak, which is just is BS. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't have to make it sound like it does what it doesn't do. Apple really stepped up the chipset this year when it comes to their performance, but all around on all of their phones. But it's mainly because they're playing catch up with Qualcomm on the AI front. Now, if you know Qualcomm makes Snapdragon, the AI battle is real. Like it is really, it's hectic right now, which is a good thing, and you'll see why. The iPhone 16 Pro Max has the A18 Pro chip, which is a step up in efficiency and performance. Obviously, they have to improve all the time, and it's literally taking the Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 head on. Obviously, that comes out next year. The iPhone 16 Pro Max, however, only has 8 gigs of RAM, which is a little disappointing. But overall, this is great for every smartphone owner because our phones are now only getting more and more powerful as a result of this competition, because all these big companies want to win the AI battle using chipsets, because that's the battlefield, that's where it's fought. This move by Apple seems preemptive, right? Because the Snapdragon Gen 4 isn't out yet, but word on the street is that Samsung is thankfully going to be ditching Exynos 2500 on all of their devices in favor of Snapdragon 8 Gen 4s and going with up to 16 gigs of RAM. We don't know what the performance will be, obviously, but it should be a decent step up. The rumored predicted amount is 30% overall when it comes to AI and GPU performance. And the rumors are they're going to be on par right now with Apple's A18 chipset. So we're going to give this one a tie for now. And it's purely based on these rumors because we can't test these things out. But ultimately, great thing. I'm glad that Apple is getting a stronger chipset. And I'm glad that everybody is trying to win that war. Apple's iPhone 16 Pro Max is sitting with a 4,676 milliamp hour battery, which is disappointing in my opinion. Like, most of these flagship phones are coming out with 5,000 milliamp batteries. So, well, Apple, what's happening? What's happening? Anyway, to make matters worse, its fastest charging right now is 40 watts. 40 watts, which is good. It's not a bad fast charging. And it's faster than any iPhone charging speeds before it. Samsung's S25 Ultra is going to have 5,000 milliamp hour battery like we've got in the S24 Ultra. And it's going to have up to 45 watt fast charging. So it's still going to have better fast charging. But hey, I guess Apple's on USB-C now. So happy for you guys. I have to give this one to Samsung. We have better hardware. Oh, and the big news, right, is that the iPhone 16 Pro Max is going to have that extra button that's dedicated to taking photos and videos and some AI stuff. Like, I have no idea why they just didn't add it like a fingerprint touch ID into that button as well, because it's just exclusively for your camera, but it's got capacitive touch. So they could have, right? They could have done that. Yeah. Anyway, it would have been really nice. Because it's capacitive touch, you can scroll using it. So you can go through camera settings like your ISO and your f-stop, and you can hold it down and it will activate Apple's version of something like Google Lens. Like, we got Google Lens, right? It's called Apple Intelligence. They announced it earlier this year. I must note here that it won't be available in all regions. They haven't committed to opening Apple Intelligence up to all regions. I'm sure they will at some stage. And it won't be available at launch. You're going to have to wait. So even if you get it on launch day, that feature's just not going to come to that button, which is weird. And yeah, can Samsung do this? Can Samsung compete? There's obviously no rumors of an extra button, but this is my S24 Ultra. That's what this button is for, guys. And then got it already. Why do you need a dedicated button for that? So you can have a fancy capacitive touch. The screen is capacitive touch. My thumbs are here already. Apple people, what's happening? I'm giving this one to Samsung for already including these features. It's very unlikely they're going to be removing them from the S25 Ultra. But it also has fingerprint touch ID. We still got that. And it's still going to have that in the S25 Ultra. And because it's going to be 2025 next year when this comes out, and you're going to have an iPhone 16 Pro Max without Touch ID, I don't want less security options on my device in the future. Please. And there's going to be 7 years of security updates for the S25 Ultra. Those are the rumors. Anyway, blows my mind. Okay, obviously, Samsung won here. But at the end of the day, we're going to see when the S25 Ultra officially launches so we can actually do some real-world tests, because specs aren't everything in the tech world, and I hope you know that. But anyway, I want to hear what you think, because, yeah, I'm sure you have a very strong opinion on who won, and like specs aren't everything, so everybody's got their own opinion. And stay nice in the comments. I'm going to see you in another video. Cheers.